Yeah.
Okay, then we can start, I guess. Good afternoon to all the distinguished guests and students and scholars and all participants present here in the international webinar on Bodo-Garo linguistics, organized jointly by the Department of Linguistics, Assam University, Silchar, and Tibeto-Burman Linguistics Association of Northeast India, that is TIBLA-NAI. To begin with, I'd like to request Professor Kesh Dhiren Singha to kindly give an introductory note on the concept of this webinar on Bodo-Garo linguistics. Dhiren sir.
Thank you, Monali. Good afternoon, everyone. As you know that Northeast India is having a large number of languages and language families. So Bodo-Garo is one of the language families in Northeast India. So is one of the major linguistic subgroups of the Tibeto-Burman language family. And this family has, languages like Bodo, Dimasa, Tiwa, Dewi, Kodvarok, and Agaro, Kos, Rava, Atom, Ruga, etc. So this classification is particularly based on their genetic relatedness in terms of their lexical innovation, somational intelligibility. Besides geographical distribution, the Bodo-Garo languages are mainly spoken across Northeast India and are also found scattered in Bangladesh and in the Japa district of Nepal. There have been major contributions in these languages by eminent linguists in the past decades, such as Professor Rabinus Barling, then Professor Jakarson on Dimasa, Deuri, and Kodvarok, then Dr. U.B. Joseph on Rava and Tiwa, Dr. Saino on Atong, Professor Scott Delancey on Bodo, and there also have been contributions by several local scholars of Northeast India in this particular field. However, recent interests have emerged towards the eastern belt of Northeast India into the Tani, Naga, and Kukishin languages, while the Bodo-Garo from the western belt had disappearing resources currently due to documentations done on the subgroup in the past decades. Languages such as Kos, Garo, Tiwa are presently in the verge of extinction and in their need of attention for intensive resources. Besides, the lesser known varieties of Dewi are nearly extinct. These of Dimasa are definitely endangered, and Rava varieties are critically endangered. So in view of the above, this webinar aims to create a dialogue on some of these aspects of the current trend of Bodo-Garo languages and bring forward fruitful discussions and suggest future scope for linguistic researches in these languages. With these few words, I just conclude my keynote address and have a nice discussion. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the wonderful introduction and introducing the concept note why we are conducting this webinar specifically on Bodo-Garo languages. I'd like now to request our head of the department, Professor S. Ganesh Bhaskaran, to kindly deliver an address, a departmental address, and also address issues on Bodo-Garo linguistics. Bhaskaran, sir, please unmute yourself.
Unmute, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Fine. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon to everyone. I welcome on behalf of the Department of Linguistics, Assam University, for this wonderful
It's maybe a network issue.
elaborate study on the diversity of the Tibeto-Burman languages, particularly in the northeastern states. And there are plenty of endangered languages. Minor and minority languages are also there in northeastern states. Of course, our department is seriously involving in documenting and doing research on these northeastern Tibeto-Burman languages, particularly in these northeastern states. Of course, we are doing research in different parts of our country also, but in this program, we are mainly concentrating on Bodo-Garo family of the languages. Of course, our Professor Biren Singh has pointed out many of the informations regarding the scholars who are worked on these languages and how the situation of the languages based on this Bodo-Garo family. So I am very happy to have a part of this program. I really once again I welcome on behalf of the Department of Linguistics. I wish all the success of this program. With this note, I wanted to take a leave. I wish this program be a good, successful one. Thank you so much for everyone.
Thank you very much, sir, for your support and for having your presence in the webinar today. I'd like to request now Dr. Pauthang Haokip, President of Tiblane, to kindly give his speech.
Okay, very good afternoon to everyone present for this third series of ongoing seminars and talks organized by Assam University, Silchar, in collaboration with Tiblane. So Tiblane, as you might not be very much familiar with, is an organization set up recently in the month of November or December last, comprising of Tibeto-Burman linguists from Northeast India. So the members are basically taken from Tibeto-Burman scholars from Northeast India and from abroad. So as part of Tiblane program to encourage native researchers and also local researchers to venture into this diverse area of Tibeto-Burman linguistics, we had several weekly talks. Perhaps we had around more than 20 talks by now. And the talks are ongoing, and we have series of other plans, such as international seminar, and so on and so forth. So today's talk, the series of talks by two eminent scholars, Alexander and Marak, is a continuation of what has been already done in the past. And this one is an ongoing, and it's a whole organization. We are all part of the same member, that is Tiblane. Since Assam University has taken it up to host the program, We are very thankful to Assam University Silchar for inviting renowned speakers in the field of in various subgroups of Tibeto-Burman linguistics. And perhaps many people who have attended regularly might have benefited a lot. And one thing that all of us know is that Northeast is a very diverse linguistic area, perhaps one of the most diverse regions of the world in terms of ethno-linguistic diversity. And this diversity has been researched upon continually for the past 1 decade after the situation in Northeast India has considerably improved. Earlier, there were no chances to or no chances for foreign scholars to directly come and do research. But with the relaxation of entry into Northeast India, now we are fortunate that many international linguists are also working on the languages of Northeast India. And today, once again, I really welcome, extend my warmest what do you call it, thanks to Alexander and also Marak. And for your information, this is part of one such event that we are conducting in joint collaboration. So we hope to carry out this joint venture with other universities of Northeast India. So welcome you, Alexander and Marak, and welcome all the members. With these few words, I would like to say a big thank to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you to our president of Tiblane, Dr. Pautang Haukip, for giving a brief introduction of Tiblane and also the activities and the current activities, and the webinar being one of the collaborative work that we are doing. I'd like to now move on to the main part of the webinar, which is coming to the speakers. Before Alexander Kondakov begins his talk on Koch dialects of Assam and Meghalaya, I'd like to give a brief introduction to all the participants present here today. Mr. Alexander Kondakov is originally from Russia, and he is a graduate in linguistics. He was formerly member of SIL, Summer Institute of Linguistics International, USA, and he has professional skills in social linguistic surveys, rapid word collection, practical lexicography. He also has skills in computer programs such as MS Office, WordServe, Audacity, Phonology Assistant, SIL Fieldworks, Language Explorer, which is more commonly known as Flex, Keyman, and Inky. He knows languages as Russian, English, Hindi, and Koch. Mr. Kondakov has published several works in recent years, among which significant are Koch Dialects of Meghalaya and Assam, a socio-linguistic survey which was published in Nails Volume 5, 2013, a socio-linguistic survey of the Rabha dialects of Meghalaya and Assam, which was published by SIL International in 2013. He also has published Harigaya Koch Phonology in Nails Volume 7, 2015, Koch English Dictionary in published by SIL International in 2018. And recently he has published an outline of Harigaya Koch grammar from SIL as a part of language documentation and description in 2020. So I'd like to request our speaker, Mr. Alexander Kondakov, to kindly deliver his talk. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be at this online event, and thanks to Department of Linguistics of the Assam University for inviting me to deliver a talk on the Koch dialects. I happen to work with the Koch people and language since 2006 and 2007, when first I began sociolinguistic survey together with my wife. So my talk today is based on the work that has been done in those years and later presented as a paper at NILS 5 in 2010 and then published eventually in 2013. I'll begin sharing my PowerPoint. To make it full screen. Yeah, I hope it is seen.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
this is
yes.
actually, thanks. This is actually where my article was published, the first article on Coach Sociolinguistic Survey. And if you haven't read it, you can get a chance. Actually, today's talk is also to encourage to learn more about the Coach dialects, subject which is not yet studied very well, I believe, even though it's been already 10, 15 years. There has been some ambiguity regarding the term Coach, whether it's a Hindu caste or we talk about Coach Rajbangsi, whether these people are part of a Garo or Coach Rabha are the same or separate people. Do they speak same language or different languages? There has been some confusion about this term, and actually our work on Coach beginning with survey was to clarify some of these doubts and to establish some facts based on a linguistic research. There is always some politics mixed with this kind of issues when we come to discuss minority people groups, their affiliation. There's always some politics, but we as linguists, we focus on purely linguistic facts and research and establish some results based on the research. I want to go back to history a little bit. We know well, especially those who live in the northeastern part of India, about the Koch kingdom in the 16th century. It is a well-known fact. The kingdom was built by the community of the same name, and the Koch Bihar town is the historical place. Until now, you can see the beautiful palace there. The palace was built a bit later in the 19th century, but this is one of the evidences of the kingdom that used to flourish at that time in this part of Northeast India. And two famous names, King Naranarayan and his commander-in-chief, Chilarai, were two famous figures of that period. However, the descendants of those empire-building Koch, right now, at this moment, they call themselves Rajbangsi. They have adopted more Bengali lifestyle. They adopted Hinduism. They speak a language which is related to Bangla. I am no authority on this language. There are other people like Dr. Matt Toulmin from Australia. He did his PhD on Rajbangsi. So these are the people that formerly Koch, and they call themselves Rajbangsi right now, which means of the royal descent. The name Koch is also there. Of course, they remember the origin, but presently they are mostly known as Rajbangsi. And it is part of West Bengal state, northern part of West Bengal. So they are not a focus of our study. We are focusing on Koch people who preserved their language of Tibeto-Burman origin, their animistic traditions, their religion being animistic mostly. They were in the focus of our study. I'll just show you some of the photos of these people, their traditional attire, some of the artifacts. You can see most of these people are found in the western part of Meghalaya state and parts of western Assam in districts Dhubri and Kokrajhar. They are mentioned, this Koch, they also claim the relationship with the Koch in West Bengal, those Rajbangsi. They claim the same identity, though they have lived quite far geographically and they have remained mostly tribal. And we can see they have preserved their language till now, even though it is kind of endangered, we can say, but it is still spoken. And today I want to mention all these dialects of these people. So when we talk about geographical area, we mostly mean Western Meghalaya and Western Assam. although there are pockets of the coach population in other parts of Assam, like in the district of Nagaon. They are also in northern Bangladesh, some parts of West Bengal, and even in Tripura, some pockets of the coach population. This is not the best map, but I used it in my survey, and I marked this with dots, the location where we visited to collect samples, linguistic samples of the coach. And so during this survey, we found that coach is actually, it's not a single group. I just again want to go back to the earlier years when in the Linguistic Survey of India by Grierson, the coach people are mentioned. They're mentioned as Pani coach. The term Pani is a little bit obscure. Until now, I didn't find any explanation of this term. And right now, you may not find a community that has the name Pani coach, but maybe in the time of Grierson, maybe outsiders used to call them like this. And it's interesting that Grierson himself in his survey, he mentions them that they are not actually coach, but Agaro. I just quote from his work. They are Garos who have never got beyond an imperfect stage of conversion to Hinduism. So maybe at that time it was believed that the coach, part of Garo, who are moving towards Hinduism. So being tribal, they are adopting Hinduism, but they are nothing but Garo. It was believed in those days. What we found in our survey, we found that 9 ethno-linguistic groups of coach. They are listed here. I purposely divided them, marked the first 6 with red and others in 3. A little later, I will explain why I divided them like this. So far, 9 groups. Later on, I came to know of 2 more groups, one in Bangladesh, one in Assam. I will mention them later. But in those days, I didn't come across those groups. So 9 are clearly established groups of coach. And this map shows geographical distribution of those groups. You can see all from north to south of West Garo Hills. This is West Garo Hills district. Currently, there is another district appeared within this territory, Southwest Garo Hills, somewhere here. But in those days, in 2006 and 2007, it's a single district. So beginning with Assam in the district of Dhubri, Coach Rabha, Wanang Coach, then the even northern part of this district. Then we have Harigaya Coach, Satpari Coach, Sankar Coach, Chapra in the southwest, and also with the border in Bangladesh, Tintikia, Margan, and Banai Coach. All these groups. Banai Coach, they are in South Garo Hills district. It's a very small community, just one village as far as we know. So these are the groups that we identified, and we need to mention some points of possible confusion. So like this community in the north call themselves Coach, sometimes Rabha, Coach Rabha. Actually, they call themselves Kocha, their ethnonym. And as we found, they're linguistically very close with the rest of the Coach in Meghalaya, especially with the Wanang group. I'll later show the data linguistic samples. What happened is that they are separated geographically by the river Brahmaputra, but they have the same clans and they're very much closely related with other Coach. But in the middle of the last century, they joined the Rabha community in Assam for some reasons. They joined the Rabha. Rabha has scheduled tribe status as far as I know. So probably some of these reasons made them take this decision. However, linguistically, we established, and it was confirmed by other researchers of earlier days, that linguistically they are same as other Coach groups. Dasgaya, in this chart, I mentioned another name, Dasgaya in the right. Dasgaya, and it means it comes from the word 10 villages, the inhabitants of 10 villages. So these people are probably, this term probably refers to both Chapra and Margan groups, as I marked here. It was really hard to find out which particular group. Perhaps it relates to both groups, but the proper names are Chapra and Margan. I believe because they live in a particular territory together or close to each other, so there was a term like inhabitants of the 10 villages, sorry. So there's Banai, I mentioned the community Banai, which is in South Garo Hills, a very small community. They claim their relation with the Koch, although right now they speak an Indo-Aryan variety, together with others marked in gray, Sankar and Satpari. Satpari Koch also comes from 7 villages. They live in 7 villages, or maybe historically lived in 7 villages. Them, and as well as Sankar, they speak Indo-Aryan speech variety. We didn't cover Indo-Aryan speeches in our survey, so it has to be further researched by other people what exactly they speak, because there are other languages in the area like Hajong. Assamese is used as lingua franca among many of these people groups. But what these communities speak is, it was reported that their speech is neither Hajong nor Assamese. It is something unique that has to be further researched. We focus mostly on the Tibeto-Burman speech of the first 6 groups. So these groups are in the focus of our study. They have preserved the Tibeto-Burman speech, Tibeto-Burman varieties. Actually, since the time of Grierson, it was noted that each group has its own dialect. So it is up to now. And population of this Koch people group is another point of ambiguity. Since there is some confusion about their identity, it's hard to exactly know the number of these people. Although there has been censuses conducted, and generally figures range from 20,000 to 30,000 people in Meghalaya. Although informal data sometimes double this amount. Like most of the rural people in Meghalaya and Assam, the Koch people are agriculturists. Although there are many who are involved in like teaching at school, some work at the police, also many students as they go outside for studies. But generally they are agriculturists. They live in villages and lead a traditional mode of life. Koch people are matrilineal, historically matrilineal, so it's like Garo and Khasi. But among the Koch, it is not so strict that after marriage the man has to go to his in-laws. But historically, they're matrilineal, and they have clans. Within each group, there are clans called Nikini. The Nikini clans, they are exogamous. They cannot marry within the same clan. And their religion, as I mentioned, traditionally animism. Animism, and it's in practice, in essence, similar to other tribal religions of the area. They do also believe in certain Hindu gods. So maybe they also may say that they believe in Hinduism as a general religion. There are also some of the Koch who follow Christianity, especially among the Koch Rabat, Assam. The language of the Koch in general, as I say, they call it Kochokoro, which means the Koch language. And classification has been another matter of debate. The different scholars, it is generally accepted they fall under this larger Konyak group that I show here. Actually, this chart is from Robin's Burling. He's presented at NILS 4 in Shillong. Maybe it's one of the latest classification models. As we can see, he groups Koch under figure 5. So this group of languages includes Rabha, Koch, Ruga, and Atong. There are other groupings that put them under directly Bodo-Garo. He makes it a little bit separate, a subgrouping. So it's a matter of debate, this classification. And we need to remember that under Koch, there are at least 6 varieties here. So further, I want to share some findings of our survey. We tested different areas of like lexical similarity, dialect intelligibility, bilingualism, and also we conducted a number of interviews, questionnaires about language attitudes, language use, vitality. So the first area of study was lexical similarity. We wanted to know how much these groups of Koch are similar or distant among themselves and their relation with Rabha and Garo. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes there is a claim that Koch are Rabha, sometimes earlier it was also mentioned that Koch are part of Garo. So we collected a word list. It is a standard word list of 210 items. It basically includes vocabulary, very well-known words like parts of the body or items from traditional village life, pronouns, personal pronouns, etc. The words that are very well known to everyone. 210 items. So we collected from each group. Means not every group we happen to collect, but here you can see 5 from 5 Koch groups. We try to collect at least 2 or 3 samples from one group. For example, Tintikia here. We collected to ensure that the speech is uniform within one community. So we cross-checked this. And we also collected from 2 word lists from Wanang community and cross-checked the same Harigaya, collected 2 word lists. So this is a special methodology. We collect words, write them down in IPA, and there is certain criteria how to group them together based on similarity. Then we enter this into a software called WordServe, and this software makes calculation of percentage of similar words. So within each group, we found quite high percentage, is above 90, like Tintikia. It shows that within Tintikia community, the speech is quite uniform. Among the Wanang group, you see 93. Harigaya shows 90. So, and later we compared with other groups among each other and also with Rabha. Arongdani Rabha is a standard Rabha, this second but one line from below, from the bottom. So according to this methodology, if it is above 90, so it is pretty sure that the 2 varieties are actually the same language. There is no point of testing further, although you can do. Normally it shows it's a high indication that varieties represent the same language, basically. If it is below 70, that is not very sure that the 2 varieties can be called dialects of the same language, and it requires normally further testing, especially the area between 70 to 90%. Well, if it is further below 70, then most probably the 2 varieties are quite different. It may be called different languages. So in every doubt, if there is any doubt, we do further testing, which is called recorded text testing. So I just want to show some of the results. When we compare the Koch varieties here with Arongdani Rabha, standard Rabha, we see only percentage is very low. It is only in the 30s. And if you take Koch Rabha, Kocha in Assam, Western Assam, and district Dhubri, we collect some. and we compare it with Rongdani. So it shows maximum 37%, which is clear indication that they are separate languages. Of course, our finding was confirmed by interviews. People actually accept that they don't easily understand each other unless they have been exposed to each other. And there have been attempts even to produce common materials that they have literature society, Sahitya Sabha among them, and they try to produce like school books for the children, something joining Kocha and Rongdani Rabha, and that experiment was not a success as far as I know, because actually they are too distant to make something, one variety that would be understood by both. But politically they are same, they join together as one community. Linguistically they are very different. And if you compare others, there's also all in their 30s. What we found interesting here is that Harigaya and Margan Koch, they're quite close. It is 69 and 72%, which shows that they are very much similar. There are some differences, but from the interviews, we also found that they can understand easily each other. Also, these two groups, Harigaya and Wanang Koch, we can see the similarities 70, 68, 70, 69, which is also a good indication that they are very similar. Maybe because they're geographically close, they are in the territory of the same state, the Bodo-Garo Hills district. Often they come across each other, interact. This also helps understanding, but this is just purely word list comparison. It also shows quite good amount of similarity. If we compare Koch Rabha with what we see also 69, they are very much close. But to make sure how much actually speakers of one group can understand speakers of another group, we conducted further testing, which is called recorded text testing. We have recorded a few stories, one from Koch Rabha, from Wanang, from Margan, and from Tintikia. Recorded one story. The story has to be not a well-known story, it's just something from personal experience. If it's a well-known story, the people from another group can easily guess sometimes, even they don't understand the language well. So it has to be something from personal experience. And we recorded a story, transcribed, and made questions. And then we went to a respective site and tested. For example, we tested the Koch Rabha story among the Wanang. We tested Wanang story among the Harigaya, and Margan and Tintikia we also tested among the Harigaya speakers. It would be ideal to do the reverse testing, but we couldn't do everything in these 2 short trips. So we at least did one side testing, but we also came to know some interesting facts about intelligibility, how much people can understand the speech of another group. So here we have average score. Like among Koch Rabha story on Wanang, it shows 92.5, which is quite good. Standard deviation shows like, for example, some speakers have very high score, others are not so high, so the standard deviation shows a difference. It is important, for example, we may know some people get exposed to other variety, and they, because of exposure, they understand another dialect very well. But if you take, for example, a lady who don't move much around and they stay in the village and they don't know the other dialect, check actually linguistically how much they can understand each other. And standard deviation shows this kind of thing. So Wanang story, when we played among Harigaya, we got 94 average score. Standard deviation is quite less here. The same with Margan story among the Harigaya speakers. But there is something different when we checked Tintikia. Tintikia Koch, it was reported by other speakers all over the area, other coach groups, they said Tintikia language is very difficult. So our test also showed that average is only 62 understanding, and standard deviation you see is very high, 15. That means some speakers of Harigaya, those who mingle with Tintikia, they understand better. Those who didn't mingle with them, they have very low understanding. So standard deviation is greater, it shows 15. So this kind of testing helps when the word list is not sufficient to show the relationship. So further testing of stories helps to determine degree of intelligibility. Also, we tested the bilingualism of the coach people. We used the Bangla story recorded in Bangladesh. Actually, ideally, it would be better to use Assamese story, but we didn't have it develop special story. We had a Bangla from our colleagues, and we tested it on the southern border of Bangladesh in Bodo-Garo Hills district. We tested there among some coach speakers how well they can understand Bangla as used in Bangladesh. So there you can see average scores and general, like we select people from different groups, educated, uneducated, younger and older. It was very hard to find uneducated because at least some education is there. A few classes in school, most of the coaches are educated up to some point. So general, this RPE level shows their ability to, their proficiency in another language. RPE shows a good general proficiency. It says that there may be a foreign accent, grammatical mistakes, but generally this does not interfere with understanding. Vocabulary is adequate. Speech may be occasionally hesitant, but for general basic understanding is enough. But we can say that also from this testing, we found that the knowledge of Bangla is not evenly distributed. And some speakers got a good score, like this number 3 is okay, but some got less, 2. So among the, you can see the knowledge of other language is not so equally distributed. But as I said, if we tested the Assamese story, maybe we could have better results, because Assamese is used among these people, like a coach in Rabat and Hajong. It is used more like a lingua franca. And of course, we conducted questionnaires to find out more about language use, attitudes, and vitalities. I'm just showing here the samples of subjects, people that we interviewed from Tintikia, Wanang, Harigaya, Organ, and Kochraba communities. We try to get different people, males, females, older, younger, educated, uneducated. So we ask questions like, where do you use your language, in which domains, which areas, at home or your friends, when you go to shop, or etc. So we found that language use in the villages, in many areas, language use is quite high in home domains mostly. When coach speakers interact among each other, children at school, at prayer, all this in all these domains, language use is quite high. And we also ask them about their attitudes about their own language and their attitudes towards other languages. And we also found through these questionnaires and interviews that, and generally, coach people have very good attitude towards their language. And when we ask about vitality, something, what do you think your language will die out eventually, or will it be replaced by Assamese or Garo or Bengali? They would normally say, no, this won't happen. And they were not happy. They want to talk about it. So it shows that language vitality is still quite strong. Although we understand the community is quite small in number and language vitality is more preserved in villages, we found that many Koch people who live in towns like in Tura or Guwahati, especially their children, they move to the language of wider communication. But in villages, language vitality is still quite strong. I don't know how much time I still have. I just wanted to come to the conclusion, major conclusions that we found during this survey, the Koch dialects comparing with Rabha. Rabha also has dialects, but as we found here, and it was confirmed by observations earlier, that linguistically Koch are not same as Rabha. Of course, they are very closely related. Languages also closely related, the way of life and other aspects. But linguistically, it shows, all our test shows that they're two separate languages. They cannot be called dialects of the same language. Despite political decisions, despite social decisions, linguistically they are separate. Also, we cannot say Koch and Garo are same, like it was claimed by Grierson in earlier days. The lexical similarity showed very less. Definitely, they don't understand each other, although they have many cognates, about maybe 20% of cognates, but they're not easily intelligible. Also, we discovered the Koch is a group of dialects. It's not just one language or one community. It's a whole group of languages, say dialects. Although some of them, like Tintikia, here I show this, how they actually located. So it's like a chain, dialect chain stretching from north to south, beginning with Kocha, Koch Rabha, and finishing with Tintikia in south. And Tintikia might be called linguistically as a separate language because it is not intelligible with other Koch groups. And of course, if you take a northern group like Koch Rabha and Margan or Rigaya, they also have a problem in understanding each other because geographically they are more separate. This northern group, Koch Rabha, is most close with Wanang group. They even have common clans and have intermarriages sometimes. So this is a geographically stretched community, and intelligibility also depends on how much they are far from each other geographically. So this is the dialect chain of the Koch groups. I may also like to recommend something for further study. Since we focus mostly on Tibetan varieties of Koch, and later I focused on one particular dialect, Harigaya. It's a kind of central. I don't say it's a standard. There is no really standard dialect or accepted by all Koch, but it's a kind of central, and it is understood easily by other Koch dialects. And I spent more time in investigating this group. I published phonology and recently grammar description. It's a short outline. It's not a very in-depth study. So I would further recommend deeper research of the Koch dialects, including Harigaya and other speeches, other dialects. Other Koch dialects are very less studied. I have only a basic collection of data, but it really requires further study. Of course, Indo-Aryan speech varieties of Satpari, Sankara, and Banai Koch would be another area of interest for those who focus on Indo-Aryan speech varieties, to find out what exactly they speak, how similar it is with Assamese or other Hajong. Later, after already I published this article, we came to know about two more groups of Koch, as I mentioned them here. Koch Mandai met a young man from Assam who came to a Koch conference, and he said that his people group they called Koch Mandai, which is very interesting because actually Mandai is the word for Garo, and I think Garo also call themselves Mande, Manderang. So it is very interesting. He published a book, this young man, Sri Narayan, Kamal Narayan Koch. He published a book on his lexicon of his language. But the language, as he acknowledged that language is on the verge of extinction, or only older people can speak. But it's interesting to find out what they really are in their relationship with both Koch and Garo, because the name Mandai actually something relates to Garo. Also in Bangladesh, there is a community called Thar Koch, and this I don't know much about this group, but it would be interesting to find out more because they still carry the name Koch. So this can be recommended, and I think it's actually a large field of study, as you see, so many and geographically spread. There's a lot of things to study, a lot of things to research. I would just like to encourage young researchers from universities who are interested in Tibeto-Burman or Indo-Aryan speech varieties of this particular geographical area to go ahead and carry the research of these groups. I think I'm finished with my main presentation. Thank you very much for your attention, and maybe some questions, if any.
Thank you, Mr. Kondakov, for your wonderful presentation on the Koch dialects of Assam and Meghalaya. And as we went through your talk, it was very interesting that Koch is not just one language, and it has several dialects, and several of these lesser known dialects and varieties are least documented. So there are many scholars present here as participants, so I think some of you might like to opt for researchers in these varieties and contact Alexander Kondakov at the same time. I was very intrigued that this Koch Mandai or Mandai Koch has been mentioned, and Thar Koch, because when I was last year, when I was working in Tezpur University, and then there were some students who went to collect data for from a group of people who identified themselves as Burman Kachari, not as Koch. And when they brought the data was completely Koch, and they called their language as Burman Thar. But when I saw, the kind of lexicon they had this word Mandai as for human. So I told them it might be the Koch Mandai of Assam. So there are some, they want to carve a political identity, I think since 2018. 18 or 19, Burman Kachari has been a new name for those in Udalguri and Baksa districts in Assam. But they definitely are speaking the Koch Mandai language. So I think there are many new identities they're trying to find. So it's Thar Koch and Mandai Koch. I wonder if they are the same or they're different. There is a lot of scope for research, actually. I hope there will be some questions from the participants here. So the room is open for discussion. You can unmute yourself and ask questions, or you can put your questions in the chat box. Please go ahead. Any questions?
Yes, Madam Monali.
Yes,
I just want to ask Alexander regarding the Koch's, script, whether they have any stories regarding their migration, whether they have migrated from somewhere else, or whether they have their original script or not. I just want to know whether in your research, did you find any stories regarding the script of the Koch language? Alexander, yes.
I haven't found any information about this original script of the coach. Actually, language has been not written. It was mostly oral, in oral form. By the time we began our survey, yeah, there were some publications, modern publications, of course, mostly done in the Assamese script. These days, some write in the Roman script. Yeah. And regarding their identity, like historical origin, there are some stories. We recorded some stories from I think around Ampati area. Like generally, they believe they came from Tibet area, but it is really, I think, it is shrouded with mystery. It's really kind of, since there was no writing in the ancient days for the coach, it's just some memory, but no documents.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dobich. Yes, any questions?
Hello, may I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Hello.
Please.
Yeah, hello, Alex. I don't know whether you remember when you started your research on the coach language, you were with us. And you will, I believe now you have finished it. And it was very interesting. I found it very interesting. And especially when you said that coaches were actually Garos who had been Hinduized. So that's an interesting way of looking at it. But do you find a lot of similarities between the Garo language and the coach language to indicate that they are actually Garos who have been Hinduized or something like that? I found your whole talk very interesting, but then I just want to comment on that. Could you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, but I missed only the point of your question. You want to know the similarity between the coach and? Pardon?
And the Garos, the Garo language and the coach
Garo,
language.
yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Is there a lot of similarity between the, yeah.
The lexical, I can only judge based on the lexical similarity. It is something like 14, 15, 16, 18% maximum, which actually shows very low lexical similarity is very low. But of course, there are many, many this one cognate words, words of the same root. There are, but based on this procedure, it's only it's below 20, which shows very less. It's two varieties. I mean, they are not part of the same language. They cannot be part of the same language. I compared across all these varieties. Yeah, that's very, very low. Even less than comparing Koch and Rava, even less.
Okay. It must be as close as Garo and Boro or something like that, no? In other Tibeto-Burman languages. Perhaps it's like that.
Maybe.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
I found it very interesting.
Thank you, Angela, madam, for your question. And I'd also like to request others to also raise some questions or give suggestions. I see there are some coach speakers as well in the group. So if you have any suggestions to provide, you may. Dhiren sir, would you like to ask a question? Because you have worked on Bodo-Garo languages a lot.
Just I want to know that this coast language, coast people may might be spoken at Tibetan, language earlier, but I don't know. I'm not quite sure. But because those people, as the Alexander, he was mentioning that they came from Tibet. So in regard to that, they might have spoken earlier the Tibetan tongue, but maybe because of the dominant language, their indigenous language may have extinct or died. That I want to know from Alexander, if you have any idea about it.
Well, it's very hard to judge about this. As I said, it was just informally recorded stories. It may be some beliefs of the Koch people, where they come from, but there is no documentation actually of their original home. And since there is no written documents, we can only trace up to the time of the Koch kingdom, I believe, in 16th century maximum. What is beyond that, I think it's very hard to find. But since there are different groups, what I like about this is that even though there are so many groups of Koch, but they are kind of related to each other, even though geographically they are spread. So they're kind of making a group, like Berling puts them into this number 5 subgroup. It's a kind of a separate group, and they're related to each other. What exactly they spoke in the early days, I think it is hard to find out right now. And since there's no records, they didn't have the language was not written, it was mostly oral. It's interesting to investigate. Maybe it has to be more in the field of anthropology, and people would collect more stories from Koch people, memories or traditional folk tales. You can reconstruct up to some point, but linguistically we don't know much.
Thank you for your question, Dhiren sir. Are there any more questions? Dr. Pautang, would you like to ask a question? I think there are no more questions. So thank you, Sir Alexander Kandikov, for your talk on Koch dialects of Assam and Meghalaya. It was a very interesting session, and we have come to know a lot of things on works to do on the Koch language. And thank you for your suggestions and further recommendations for research as well. We now move on to our next speaker, Dr. Dokachi C.H. Marak. Let me introduce her before she presents her talk on the comparative study of the 2 Garo dialects. That is, one is the Kamrup variety of Garo, and the other one is Awe, which is a standard Garo. Dr. Dokachi Marak has done her post-graduation in Garo in 1998 and linguistics in 2000, and PhD from the Department of Garo, Nehu Tura campus, on the title Dialects of Garo, an exploratory study. Currently, she is an assistant professor in the same department of Nehu Tura campus. She has taken part in different national and international seminars, symposia, and workshops, and conducted seminars, refresher courses, and orientation programs. She has also written articles in journal books on Garo, and she has also actively participated in several social activities and is a member of different registered organizations like Achik Literature Society, Northeast Literary Forum, and currently she's also a member of Tiblane. So I'd like to request Dr. Dokachi to kindly deliver her talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Monali, for your sweet introduction. So today I'll be, she has already told the topic, that I'm going to present today. I'll be sharing it here on the screen. So is it visible?
Yes, please make it full screen.
Okay. So it's a comparative study of the Kamrup variety of Garo and Awi, which is the standard Garo. So before starting my presentation, I would like to thank the members of Tiblenei for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences in my own language. Of course, Kamrup variety of Garo is, different from the standard Awi, and you will see it in my presentation itself. So I have collected the Kamrup variety of Garo while doing my research to look at the similarities as well as differences between different varieties of Garo. But I want to confess that since I have worked on many varieties of Garo, I cannot cover all the places during my research, and whatever I'm presenting here may not be a complete, complete research work, but I'm giving only the some parts or some portions of these varieties where you can see the similarities as well as the differences. So let me go straight now. So first is the genetic classification of Garo or Aceh language. I have written here that Garo language is spoken by the tribe of that name, who form a greater part of the population of the 5 districts of Garo Hills of Meghalaya. Then this Garo language, Garo language is spoken in different districts of Khasi Hills, also Assam, Nagaland, Tripura, Cooch Behar, Jalpaiguri in West Bengal, and in Bangladesh also. So the Garos prefer to call themselves Aceh or Aceh Mandi, which means hillmen, and the language which they speak is known as Aceh Kusuk. So we love to call ourselves as Aceh. Instead of using the word Garo, we used to call ourselves as Acehs, or the language that we speak as Aceh Kusuk, or the language of hillmen. So when we look at the genetic classification of Garo, then we know that this Garo or Aceh language belongs to the Great Tibeto-Burman family, which is one of the branches of the Sino-Tibetan or Tibeto-Chinese speech family. So it is one of the second largest family in the world after the Indo-European family. So the Tibeto-Burman family has been classified by various linguists under the Bodo-Garo subgroup. In his Linguistics Survey of India, G.A. Grierson states that Brian Houghton Hodgson was the first to apply the generic name Boro. So there are different classifications done by Robinson in 1855, then Schaeffer in 1955, Benedict, Matisoff, and others, and they have classified Garo language as a part of the Tibeto-Burman family. And Chatterjee, 1974, placed the Garo language under the Bodo-Naga subgroup in his classification of the Tibeto-Chinese or Sino-Tibetan speech family. So these are some of the genetic classifications you can see from the slide. I won't be reading out everything from here. So now let's come to the historical background of the Garo language, or the historical background. So history speaks of the Garos as they are from Tibet. So they have migrated from Tibet. We have different oral narrations. We have folk tales, which has been preserved for generations by our forefathers. And now these type of oral narrations have been recorded. They have been documented. And when we go through those documentations, then we see that the the Garos or the Arctics have migrated from Tibet. So during their migration, from Tibet, they face severe problems. So we have this type of oral narrations. So I'm just narrating the problem that they face while migrating or while during their migration from Tibet. So they face severe problems, and they have the scarcity of food and water while during their journey. Then they preserve their scripts. The Garos have their script. According to the oral narrations, they have their scripts, and they preserve their scripts in the skins of animals. But because of the scarcity of food and water, they boil and add the skins. Therefore, the script was lost forever. So that is the story related to the script, which the Garos have long time ago. But I don't know the real fact or the originality of these stories. But we have this same type of stories even in different groups, language groups, like the Mijos have this type of oral narrations about their scripts. So in that way, we preserve, or we came a long way from Tibet. And first, they settled in the plains. After coming from Tibet, they settled in the plains of North Bengal in a place called Rangamati near Rangpur. And from there they moved on to Dhubri and settled in Koch Behar for nearly 400 years. This has been taken from Marak's book, Jobang Marak. He has collected this type of narrations from the forefathers and has been documented. So in the course of their journey, they broke into different branches. Some groups settled in West Bengal, then some in Koch Behar, then Mymensingh, Chittagong, and some entered the hills under the leadership of Abong Noga, Silmedoka. So these are, I have taken this from the books written by Jobang Marak, and of course we have other prose writings by Diwan Singh Rongmutu and others, and they have collected this type of oral narrations and tried to bring out the historical background of the Garos. Then let's come to the geographical distribution of the Garo varieties. So according to G.A. Grierson in 1901, he has listed about 11 varieties of the Garo language in his Linguistics Survey of India, and they are Way, Beng, Machi, Matabeng, Garaganseng, and he has included Megam or Lenggam also. But the recent research on the different varieties of Garo language and the Megam as one of the variety shows that it is quite different from the Garo language. It is quite different from the Garo language, and it is more closer to the Khasi language, which is Austroasiatic. So, but Grierson has, in his research or in his Linguistic Survey of India, he has given this Megam as one of the varieties of the Garo language. So let's go to the Awe variety. The speakers of this dialect inhabit the northern and northeastern fringes of the hills and the lower hills adjacent to the plains in the districts of Kamrup and Gwalpara. So this language, Awe, has been standardized. It is used for different official, religious, and administrative purposes. So it was the British officials and American Baptist missionaries who use this language for different, educational, religious, administrative purposes. So here you can see the proliferation of Awe. So the British officials and missionaries first came in contact with the Awe speakers. So they first meet the Awe speakers and learn the Awe variety first. So since they learned the Awe variety first, they started to establish schools in different parts. So first they started a normal school in Damra. Then later on, this normal school has been shifted to Gwalpara, and finally and permanently it has been shifted to Tura. So I think I have done the same thing here, the same points. Then, okay, in number C, you can see writings of books, both secular and religious, started in the Outway. Then migration of Outway speakers to Tura. Since the administrative and other educational institutions have been moved to Tura, people have started moving into Tura. Tura, as we all know, comes under the Beng area, or it is the area which is which falls under the Beng speaking area. So when the missionaries, the British officials, shifted the educational institution and the different administrative offices to Tura, then people from the north, people from different parts of Garo Hills have migrated. It is not only the Outway speakers, but also the speakers of different varieties have shifted. They have migrated to Tura. Then now the status of this Outway variety, now it has become the associate official language of Meghalaya. It has become the associate official language of Meghalaya. Then let's come to the Garos of Kamrup. Kamrup is one of the districts of Assam, and this district is surrounded by Bhutan in the north, east and west Khasi Hills in the south, Naugong and Darang districts in the east, and East Garo Hills and Gwalpara districts in the west. So this Kamrup district is inhabited by different language speakers or different language speaking communities like Assamese, Bengali, Santals, Boros, etc. The Garos occupy the southern borders of the Kamrup district of Assam, and the total population of the Garo settled in this district comes to around 29,184. So, but of course it is undocumented statistical report. The Garo inhabited areas have been identified as 5 centers, namely Joypur, Hahim, Gohalkwana, Santipur, and Ukiam Center. Both the Kamrup variety and the Outway standard variety shared some features with the other Tibeto-Burman languages. So here I have shown some shared features, common shared features, which has been shared by the Outway and the Kamrup variety of Garo. And of course, there are other similarities as well, but I'm showing only some parts. Here, we know that both the Outway and Kamrup variety of Garo has an SOB word order, but this SOB or subject-object-verb word order is not rigid. It is not rigid. Then the second point is postpositional. It is not preposition, but it is postposition. Then the third point is complement head order. That is the direction of case assignment is from left to right. The verb assigns accusative case to its complement, that is object. Then both the varieties are affixing or agglutinating language. They are agglutinative. Some of the suffixes are plural, tense and case markers. We can identify easily the tense, case, as well as plurals with the use of the markers, with the use of suffixes. Then we have prefixes, prefixes to. Many words take prefixes to. For example, in the word ta, ta means yam and jak meaning leaf. Here ta is a prefix. Then there are many words which are compounds. For example, some means curry and dik means pot. So this type of compounds as well as prefixes are there in both the varieties. Then let's come to the phonology. So both the varieties possesses 24 phonemes, both in Kamrup and Kamrup variety of Garo, and the Otway variety, we have 6 vowels, E, A, U, which is a central vowel, A, O, and U. Then we have 18 consonants, as you can see from here, Pa, Ba, Tha, Pa, Tha, aspirated Ka, then Ga, then the glottal stop, Cha, Ja. So these are, we have 18, altogether 18 consonants, both in both the varieties. Then there are stops, then affricates, we have fricatives, nasals, alveolar, la lateral, wa and ya semi-vowels. Again, these consonants, phonemes, these consonant phonemes can occur in the syllable initial position. They can come in the syllable medial as well as syllable final positions, as you can see from the slide. Then the syllable structure. The canonical syllable structure in both the varieties is CVC, in roots, suffixes, as well as in enclitics. Then the minimum syllable consists of only a vowel, except for the bound forms and of the demonstratives ua, u distal demonstrative, and ia, e proximal demonstrative, and the interjections or expression of understanding, acknowledgement, and a strong attention-seeking interjection. There are no roots that consist exclusively of a vowel. Then the majority of the predicate had suffixes other than event specifiers, enclitics, and monosyllabics with a CV structure. Fewer suffixes and enclitics have a CVC or BC structure, and other syllabic patterns occur even less frequently. Then most event specifiers and noun phrase suffixes have a CVC or CV syllable structure. Then the consonant clusters. These clusters always comes. We have consonant clusters both in Otway and the Kamrup variety of Garo. But these consonant clusters or these clusters always comes in the syllable initial position. And as you can see from the slide, this ba can occur with ra, sa with ra, ka with ra, ma with ra. So ka and na, sa and na, pa and la, sa and la. So all these clusters can come in the syllable initial position only. Then now let's come to the variation. Of course, we cannot say that the speakers of the Kamrup variety of Garo and the Otway speakers of Otway variety are mutually intelligible. They can understand each other's varieties, but there are some slight changes or variation in their speech, in the use of the lexical items, as well as change in the vowel sounds in the Kamrup variety of Garo and Otway. As you can see here in the example that here we have the central vowel here, kcha. Then here a, keta. So you can see the variation, vowel variation or vowel change there, to a, then o to e. Then here also the same, it's a case marker, cho is a case marker. Then here a changes to so this type of slight variations are there between these two varieties. Then onset ha consonant in the Kamrup variety of Garo. As you can see here, in all the examples which I'm showing here, shows that this ha sound or the ha consonant phoneme comes in the syllable initial position in different words, in different Kamrup words. Okay, Kamrup Garo. So there are differences there. As you can see from here, hoong and owe, then honna, onna, onna. ha'a, then a'a, ha'zri, a'zri, haiwa, aiwa. So you can see it occurs in every words here. You can see that this ha, onset ha, occurs in the syllable initial position, and this ha comes before the vowel o and a. Then one of the striking difference between these two varieties is the use of tense suffixes, and it is because of these suffixes the speakers of other varieties cannot sometimes understand the Kamrup Garo, but of course for linguists or those who have the knowledge of the Kamrup variety will understand their variety or the Kamrup variety without any ease, without any problem. But for some speakers, it creates some difficulties because, as you can see from here, the variation in tense suffixes or the tense markers are quite different from the Kamrup Garo and the Awi. Of course, for the present or the neutral tense, as Robin Sperling has used the term neutral, we have this a and a for the present tense or present tense marker. But for the present progressive continuous, we have this edong and enga. It is enga, it is edong in the Kamrup, for the simple past, and ha or jok in the Awi variety. Then simple future is num and gen, and immediate continuous future is gedong and nasya. So you can see there's a striking difference in the use of the tense suffixes or the tense markers. Then there are some variations in use of personal pronouns also. In the Kamrup variety of Garo, the same word is used for both exclusive and inclusive we. In Awi and other varieties of Garo, we have this first person plural, which where we have different words for the exclusive we and the inclusive we. Okay, so here tengah means we exclusive and anteng means inclusive. But in the Kamrup variety, anteng is used for both the inclusive and exclusive we, first person plural. Then another variation is in the third person plural marker. As you can see here, tum is used for the third person plural marker in Kamrup as hutum, they human, but in Awe, mang, as in as wa mang, bismang. Okay, so you can see the differences here. Then the negative marker, there is a difference in the negative marker also. For example, in the Awe variety, we have na negative marker, but in Kamrup, it changes to ja. So ja and na, that is the difference we can see between these two varieties. Then instrumental marker chi becomes cho in the Kamrup variety of Garo, angcho and angchi by me. So these are some of the differences or between these two varieties of Garo. Then the word of surprise or exclamation in the Kamrup variety of Garo is different from the standard Awe. Even in the use of exclamatory words, you can see the sentence here. The words are different, both in the Kamrup Garo and the Awe. So when we look at the sentences, then you will find the differences more. So Kamrup Garo and Awe, the difference in the use of the exclamations, like in Awe we have ayaw, means alas, but it is pra in Kamrup variety of Garo. Agrejok or agreaha in Awe, that means too much, unbelievable, but in the Kamrup variety it is asurut. So this type of variations are there between these two varieties. So another important point that we have to remember is that each group can be differentiated through their intonation patterns. Of course, different varieties of the Garo language or different speakers of the Garo language can be identified. They can be recognized through their speech, through their intonation patterns. And it is same with the Kamrup variety of Garo and the standard Awe. Of course, I don't have the recordings with me right here with me now, but I just want you to know that the variation can be seen even in their intonation patterns also. Here I would like to say that even the Awe, which is spoken in the northern parts of Garo Hills, has been spread to Assam. There are lots of Awe speakers even in the border areas of Assam, and we know that their speeches can be understood, or their speeches can be understand from their intonation pattern itself. And you know, the Awe speakers, when we when we move on from one geographical area to the other, from one village to the other, then even there are different, you know, sub-varieties of Awe. We can say sub-varieties of Awe, because in Awe variety itself, there may be variations from one area to the other. So that is one important point, and for us, for those who are interested in doing research on the Garo languages, this field will be a different field to find out the variation in the, or the geographical variation in the intonation pattern of the Awe speakers and areas covering the northern parts of Garo Hills as well as Assam. So, as I have already told you that Awe is spoken not only in the northern parts of Garo Hills, it is also spoken in Assam. And even this Kamrup variety of Garo is spoken in Assam. So there are lots of influences from other languages like Indo-Aryan languages like Assamese, Bengali, and other languages. But till now, the Kamrup variety or the Kamrup variety speakers have tried to maintain their variety or their language. And it was G. Grayson in his Linguistics Survey of India in 1901 who has written the parable of the lost son in different varieties of the Garo language to show the differences in each variety, including the Kamrup variety of Garo. So it's all, we know that he has done his research a long time back in 1901, and it has already prosed more than 100 years, but till now, no one has done a research on this variety. And since it is spoken in Assam, maybe because of that, it has not been included as one of the variety of the Garo language till now. So it is high time for the people of Garo Hills, for the speakers of other varieties, and the speakers of the Kamrup variety of this Garo language to do more work on this topic, to find out the richness, to find out how, even under the influence of other languages, these Kamrup variety of Garo or the Kamrup speakers are trying to maintain their variety for a long time. So that's what I have tried to share with you today. So that's all. Maybe there may be some shortcomings in my presentation, but I would like to request everyone to, everyone to understand, as I have already told you in the beginning, that I cannot do an intensive research on this Kamrup variety of Garo, but whatever I have found, I try to share with you today. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dokachi Marak, for very interesting talk on a comparative study of the Kamrup variety of Garo and the standard Awe. It's very interesting to see how different the Kamrup variety of Garo is in comparison to Awe, and it looks like it resembles more of the phonologically more of the Bodo feature rather than the Garo feature. it looks like that to me, and it's very interesting. And I think there are a lot of scope for research in the Kamruk variety of Garo. And as Garo has kept extending even as far as in Dimapur in Nagaland, I think there is a lot of documentation required in the Bodo-Garo linguistics so far. So thank you for your very intellectual talk and discussion on this particular topic. I would like to request the participants now to ask questions to our speaker. You can unmute yourself and ask questions, or you can also drop your questions in the chat box.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Angela, madam, you can. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Okay. Hello, Dukachi. Thank you very much. That was very interesting. I didn't realize that we had included the Kamrupia dialect of the Garo language into the different varieties. I think it's high time we did that. I agree with you. And maybe you should get a scholar to start doing research on the Kamrupia dialect.
Okay, thank you, Abi.
Thank you, Angela, madam, for your suggestion for scholars to bring up for research in the area. I think Caroline, madam, also has a question since her question is on. So you can unmute and ask question. Professor Caroline Marak, I suppose.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Thank you for including all of us. And I was privileged to join this webinar because I got the link sent by you. And thank you for this. And then it's very mentally like stimulating. At the same time, I'm very interested in because I myself, I had done PG in linguistics, and I did some research, and one of my publication is on Ruga language. And now, because I have also studied some the varieties such as Atong, and I find there's a link between Atong and Ruga, and then Armachidualinmenia. So therefore, we will not say that these are like, they are all related. I know that they are all related. So Ruga is no longer spoken. It's I think I'll be right in saying that it is like the language is more or less extinct. Even though we don't want to say the word, but we can't escape the facts. So I find that there are some some things, some endings, and some morphemes we can trace their presence in all of them together. Whether it is a standard awake, or whether it's Abeng, or whether it is Kamrup and Atong, and lost language that is Ruga. So therefore, we can trace the relationship between them. And most importantly, if you go back to the suffixes and the prefixes and the consonant loss, the initial consonant loss, or a final consonant loss, all of these, if you take into account, and then you will find that you can find that there's a link. There's a link, all of them, among all of them, and you find that this now is very intricate. Because it's intricate, it's very interesting. So, and thank you, Dokachi, for presenting this paper. And finally, I thank everybody. And one thing I would like to, that the one question which related to the presentation by Alexander Kornakov. And I also must mention that I had the privilege of meeting Alexander Kornakov when he was working hard in Garo Hills, trying to meet the people and collect the data from the relatively unresearched language of Koch spoken as spoken in Garo Hills. So this one thing is that Mandai, the word Mandai. The word Mandai, the Archics call themselves Monday, and in Garo language, as Professor Robbins Burling has pointed out, in one of the articles he has pointed out the loss of diphthongs, in Garo, and so Archics call themselves Monday. The diphthong is lost. Mandai, actually it's Mandai, originally should be Mandai. And they refer to themselves, they call themselves as Monday. Then who is he? They will ask, Mandaean. Mandaean means he is a Garo, not a non-Garo, they will say. So Monday means a human beings, like many other languages in the world, many other groups of languages. They call themselves a human being. So like Garos also call themselves Mandai. And Monday or Mandai. And if you research into many other words, compare Garo with the Boro, for instance, Boro or Rapa, then you will find that the loss of diphthong. And this loss of diphthong and the initial consonant loss and the vowel loss in the initial and the final consonant loss, all of these help to make the language unintelligible to each other. So these are things, and so therefore the Archics call them Garo is a word applied by outsiders to Garo, to us, and then we call ourselves Archik Monday also, and then in Bangladesh the Garos that call themselves as Monday, they continue to call themselves Monday as Monday only. They don't refer to themselves as Archik, because Archik, I believe, because the source of Archik, the word Archik means hill. Perhaps the Archiks continue to call themselves, those who move into the hills as Archik Monday. They call them themselves, and among the Assamese also, we are known as Archik Monday. Thank you so much. These are comments which I have. No questions so far, but comments.
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you so much.
Madam. It's very good to see you here. And I think we met last during Berlin's condolence meeting in Tiblanei also. So it's very good to see you again here. And thank you for your comments and suggestions to both of our speakers who have given very interesting talks. And so I think there's another question, I think, from Uncle Mosiel Khaling also. You have unmuted yourself, so you can ask question.
No, I don't have any question. That was a mistake.
Okay. So then, are there any suggestions also to give any suggestions, comments, or questions? Yes, Dhiren sir.
Thank you, Dr. Marak, for your wonderful presentation. But I would like to know about the concern clusters. You please share your slide, okay? That's concern clusters.
Please share your PPT once again, Dr. Madam. You're muted.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Marak, thank you for your presentation, but I would like to know about the concern clusters that you have talked about. You please share your slide just for concern cluster. I'd like to see some of the concern clusters that you have noted there. So san and this man, Kana.
This is the consonant. Sir, it's not coming in the screen.
No, we have stopped the sharing because discussion.
Okay, then I have to do the sharing again.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Yes, this one.
It's
Consonant
coming.
cluster, yeah. Yes, coming.
Yes.
So just I'm wondering that this kana and sana, and this kana sana, and even this ma ra. I think so. There must be a very short vowel in between this ka and na, and then in between this sa and na.
Yes, yes, sir. Absolutely. Sometimes we used to say knal, snal, leng, slang, like that. But in certain cases, it's we pronounce these words without a vowel, like knal, snal, clang, slang, like that. So even in our writing systems also, we are accepting this type of spellings, so we use them as clusters.
But you can just use the spectrograph. You can check in the spectrograph how this occurs.
Okay, sir.
Because there must be very short and
yeah, short is there, short e is also there, but we can use it alternately.
Okay. And just one more question is a very interesting regarding this negative marker. So in this ya or a, and is we have to set up this proto form of negative in most of the Bodo-Garo languages, but you have shown that in say Kamrup, so Kamrup Garo, so this ya is replaced by this na, and this may be borrowed from the Indo-Aryan language, like Assamese. Say that this na is, they frequently use this na as negative morpheme in Assamese language.
No, sir, it's not in the Kamrup variety, but it's in the Awe variety that
Awe variety, okay.
But in Kamrup we have ja.
Yeah, okay.
Ja negative marker and na in.
It is very interesting, this na.
Yes.
Yeah. Of
course, we have other negative markers also, but here I have focused only on to show the variation between these two varieties. So, of course, in our way, we have other negative markers used in different ways.
Okay, is there any ya or ja?
Ja is there, ya is also there.
Okay, then is there any distribution between this ya and ya, where this na occurs, where this ya occurs? There must be some distribution.
Okay, so I have to look. I have to think about it.
Thank you, Dhiren sir, for those questions. Very interesting, because even in Dimasa, we can also have this kind of clusters like Mra and Knasna. We also use it a lot, especially the younger generations. We use reduced speech context. We tend to have this sesquisyllabic cluster. This is a very interesting question that sir has asked, and I hope Dr. Dokichi madam will be able to contact you soon with your answer for the distribution of negation and its allomorphs. Are there any more questions from the participants?
Hi. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, hello.
Actually, it's me, Dibujiti. I hope you remember me.
Yes, very
actually,
much.
ma'am, the Kambu variety is okay. the Kamrup variety is spoken especially in Kamrup districts or other in other districts of Assam also? That's
It is
I want to
spoken
know.
mainly in the Kamrup district of Assam. As I have given the description, it is spoken in the southern parts of Kamrup.
Okay.
No? Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Actually, I thought when in my field, I found some good numbers of speakers from West also. That's why I just want to clarify that. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Dibajyoti, for your question. Are there any more questions? So, Dokuchi Madam, you can stop sharing the screen.
Okay.
If there are no further questions, then I'd like to request all the participants present here to show their faces so that we can take a group photo together. Thank you, participants, for that session to open up with your faces and to take some photographs. We will soon share these screenshots very soon, either in Facebook or maybe by mail once we give you the certificate. I'd like to request now our joint coordinator of the program of this webinar, Dr. Mary Kim Haokip, to kindly give vote of thanks.
Thank you, Monali, for giving me the opportunity to give the word thanks. First of all, I would like to thank our first speaker, Alexander Kondakov, for his wonderful and insightful talk on the topic dialects of Meghalaya and Assam. Next, I would like to thank our second speaker, Dr. Dokachi C.H. Marak, for that detailed and very interesting talk on the comparative study of the Kamrup variety of Garo and the Awe standard Garo. Both the talks were really interesting, very insightful, and I'm sure all of us have really benefited from both the talks. Next, I would also like to thank our moderator for today's session, Dr. Monali Longmai, for smoothly conducting today's webinar. I would also like to thank our head of the department, Dr. Ganesh Bhaskaran, for his support and for his active participation. I would also take this opportunity to thank all the members, especially the whole committee of Tiblane, for their support and also for their participation. In a very special way, I thank all the participants, especially people who have joined from other universities and native speakers of Bodo-Garo group, for your presence and your active participation in these talks. Next, I would like to thank each and everyone, the students, scholars who are actively helping us and also actively engaging yourselves and taking out time to participate in this international webinar. So with this, I end my word of thanks and thank you to all.
Thank you, Dr. Mary Haokip, Madam, for your vote of thanks. I also would like to thank Professor Caroline Marak and Uncle Musil Kaling for being a part of the webinar here, because both of them are very senior to us, and both of them have done lifelong contributions and been attending the webinars throughout during the pandemic. We have seen them so many times, so thank you to both of them as well. And thank you to all once again. There will be forthcoming webinars from the department and Jiblane very soon. We will update you about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Monali.
Thank you, everyone.
Madam Mary Kim. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot.
See you soon, Dokachi.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.